This world doesn't need no opera. Here for the operation. We don't need bigger knife. Yeah. Cause we got guns, we got guns, we got guns. We got guns, we got guns. You better run. Killing strangers, we're killing strangers, we're killing strangers so we don't kill the ones that we love.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to the channel. So as you can see here, we have an H&K to take a look at today. And what H&K pistol is it? It is the P30L V1 in 9mm. So what is the P30? Well, the P30, and specifically the L, is the full size pistol. This is basically, guys, let me tell you what this is. This is basically a VP9, okay? But it is hammer fired, as you can see. So much like the SIG 250, if you guys aren't familiar with it, SIG came out with a double action only pistol called the SIG 250. Before the 320, and then they basically just put a striker fire system in the back of it and renamed it and tried to claim that it was a completely new pistol, which is horse crap. This is basically, it's kind of the same thing. This is the P30L, which is the full size, so it's Glock 17 size, but this is a hammer fired gun, and specifically this one has the LEM trigger, which is like the law enforcement modification, I think they call it. It's kind of a double action, kind of like maybe one of those SPS trigger systems. But this is the father of the VP9. They basically took this pistol and said, hey, let's put a striker fired thing in the back. And the VP9 exploded. And this one kind of got a little bit overlooked. There's still some fans of this, and I am one. This is not as popular as the VP9. The VP9 was wildly successful compared to like this gun. And I think it's been probably 10, 12 years since this gun came up. So it's kind of an older gun, but they still sell them. They still make them. And I think it's very cool. And so let's see what you get in the box. You get the gun, of course. You get two, in this case, and I know earlier ones only came with 15 round mags, but now you get two 17 round mags with this gun if you are not in a communist state. And obviously, being the Wyoming Gun Project, I am in the freest state in the Union. But since we're full, you guys can't come out here. And also, to complicate things, Wyoming's not real. So there's that. What do you get in the box? You get another 17 round magazine. This is the little H&K. I did a short where I unboxed it. This little H&K thing they put around it. That's cool. A little branding rubber band thing. I think is cool. You get your extra 17 round mag, all your back straps and side straps. All right here, side panels, back straps, pistol. So if you're not familiar with this or the VP9, this is your first time watching this, this grip is highly customizable. You take out this pin, you can change the back strap out, you can change these side panels out, so you can add a swell to one side, flatter the other side, big swell in the back, little swell. It's I think 27 different ways it's customizable, which is super cool. But let's set this aside, and up here you just get manual, your paperwork, all your the standard child lock and all that kind of stuff. So let's set this aside and see what, I'll keep the mag here, we got for the pistol. So, as I stated before, this is the P30L. The other one is the P30S, or it's about a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch shorter, so it's like a Glock 19 size. But this is your standard, this pistol has your standard H&K quality, which is fantastic. These do come in several different versions. Now they come, if you get the double single action model, it comes with a little button back here to decock it. One of the reasons I didn't buy that one is because I couldn't see. I see so many negative reviews of people having to reach up, and especially if you're a lefty, you'll have to come over and hit that button to decock it. Whereas, you know, I have a USP 45 full size, and I don't understand why they didn't just go with the safety where you just push down and decocks it like they did on the USPs. I don't know why they switched it up with some little button back there, but a lot of people that own this gun and done reviews of it say they do not like that little decocker button. So you get a version like this where it's kind of slick with no thumb safety on the side and just the decocker, and it's double action, single action. And the slide stop, slide release is extended out past that. Then they make a version where it has the decocker on it, but then you have a separate frame mounted thumb safety on off. I guess you could carry it cocked and locked if you wanted or whatever. And then these are actually like that much shorter, probably a 1/4 inch shorter on the slide stop slide release. They kept the standard HK little mag release thing, which is not a problem for me. It's a training issue. Guys, a lot of, as far as I'm concerned, if the pistol is reliable, and it really only needs to be moderately accurate. Not speaking of this one, just speaking of handguns in general. Most modern handguns nowadays do not suffer from the reliability issues that they used to when they started hitting the market back in the day before Glock. Matter of fact, that's why Glock and HK, but Glock really was able to brand themselves and market themselves really well. Before Glock, auto pistols were, I'm not going to say sketchy, but Glock was one of the very first auto pistols that became widely commercially available that everybody knew was very reliable. And then everybody else had followed up. And as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of companies that have surpassed Glock because they just failed to innovate. But that's a whole nother subject. But a lot of the problems people have with shooting in general and shooting handguns nowadays, it's a training issue. You're not training enough. You're not spending enough time with the gun, with the trigger system or whatever. You run out, fire 5-10 rounds and give it back to the, 50 rounds, maybe give it back to the factory or, the store that lent it to you, or maybe you bought it and you don't like it too much. And you just put it in the safe, never to shoot it again. And I get it. There's certain things about pistols. There's certain aspects as far as all kinds of things that you want, that people want in a handgun, and certain handguns are not for everybody. But this one is, I didn't want the VP9. Let me back up a little bit. I didn't want the VP9. I wanted this because it looked like the VP9. And I've shot the VP9 before. I have friends who had the VP9. I think the VP9 is very cool. But I have a lot of striker fire handguns. And if you know anything about me in this channel, I like to mix it up a bit. Not only do I like weird calibers and weird, off the wall, off the beaten path calibers and guns. I like off the beaten path trigger systems, guns, stuff that's not super popular. Everybody's buying, like the VP9 or the Glock 19, which I own the Glock 19, a couple of them. But I do sometimes, especially as I get older, I say, that's a diamond in the rough. I like that. And not to say that these things are rare or anything like that, but you get HK quality and it's not a striker fired gun. And it's the LEM, which again, I said is the law enforcement modification, which basically gives you almost like a single action, but the take up's real quick. And then, so we'll explain that a little bit later. But, so that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a VP9-ish gun, but not striker fired. And so I found the P30, and I think it's super cool. So let's kind of get into, the specs, features, all that kind of stuff. Again, I said that this has the LEM, which as you can see is right here, modification. So what it is it's very light, very light. Boom, take up, there's a wall right there, okay? So it's all the way out. As you can see, it retracts the hammer, very light. Then you hit your wall and it pulls the trigger. Now, when the weapon fires and it cycles, and loads a new round in, your hammer is still back. Okay, you're going to let it out. Probably now the reset is not fantastic, but it is probably about halfway before it resets, and then you got to do some take up again, fire again. Okay, and it cycles. And you can see as I actuate the trigger, the hammer is actually moving with it. So what I think is going on here from watching other videos and reading up on this, this is kind of halfway cocked in there. And then when you get to this point, that's when you're going to be able to release it in a pseudo single action. I think this is probably the same as the single action on the double action, single double guns. And again, we're going to take it out and shoot it for the first time. We're going to get the first shots out of this sucker. But I don't see how I have any problem learning this trigger system whatsoever. I've shot similar trigger systems to this, and it's fantastic. So controls, you know, it's got the HK push down, which is not the button like Americans like. But again, training issue. There's kind of a benefit to this. If you're going to reload, you can just press right here. So you fired all your rounds. Slide is locked back, right? Look at where you could just reach right down and eject it with your trigger finger. You could come around like this and do your thumb, but you're tilting the gun quite a bit. But there's some guns that have to do that. But it's easier just to barely shift your hand a little bit and press down, and it comes out. Okay, all the other controls I can reach without ever having to even adjust my grip, just right like that. So that's standard HK stuff, man. It's really cool. Sights are, you know, standard metal, and they put, I don't know if it's super luminova or whatever. It's luminous paint, probably the same kind of stuff they use in watches where it's charged by the light. Is that ideal? Is it tritium night sights? No. And if it's in a holster, how are you going to have your front sight get charged? And how are you going to have any of the sights get charged if you're concealed carrying this thing and your sights haven't had a chance to catch sunlight? But whatever, it is what it is. They're kind of a yellowish green color. As long as they're regulated properly, I don't really care. To take this sucker apart, you kind of come back with it and line these two notches up right there, right? You're going to press on the other side. See that right there? You're going to press on that to get lined up there, and then pull this bad boy out. It does not come off like the older ones. You see the red right there? Then you just pull it straight off. So it remains captive on there, which is cool. And then they have this really cool recoil system, which I think this is kind of a weight that dampens recoil. But then the rest of it's kind of standard Browning action, you know, tilting, locked barrel, which is cool. Get it back on, same stuff, line it up, push forward, click, and you are good to go. Yeah, so let's get a weight and a trigger pull on this pistol and see what that's like. Oh, let me just before we do that, I almost forgot. So this pistol, some people will get confused and think if you pull this trigger and it doesn't go off, it does have a similar double strike capability. Okay, so the trigger, it's very long and very hard, but it does offer you a chance to get double strike capability. That is not how the pistol will be carried. When you load your pistol and chamber around, the hammer will protrude a little bit right there. And then it'll be super light take up, and then fire. If your pistol does not cycle, you can see that the hammer is almost flush there. That's when it's the super long trigger where you could potentially do a second strike. And then if it does fire, it'll cycle, come back, and you'll get your single action trigger mode. So I'm excited to take this out to the range and shoot this. This is going to be a lot of fun. But again, let's get the weight and then the trigger pull and then take it out to the range and shoot it. Let me get the scale over here. What are we working with? 27.77 ounces. That's unloaded with the mag. Very cool. Now, let's see if this trigger pull gauge will, and I'm going to have to cycle it every time. All right, let's get the take up. 762. Seven, 4, 8. $7.02. So we're probably looking at right around 7 1/4, 7 pounds, which is, that's probably typical for an HK. If, I don't have my USP here to test it with, but that's pretty typical of a single action, pistol. And again, if you spend enough time with this sucker, you'll be able to shoot the fire out of it. I guarantee it. So you know what? Let's get just for giggles, let's get see if we can, if the darn thing, the trigger pull gauge will do it. 13.14. That's what the double strike, truly huge, long double action is. 13.14. But again, if your pistol is operating properly, you will never have to use that trigger system because it's just light to single and then bang. So let's take this bad boy out to the range and see how she shoots. All right, guys, range portion of this video at the H&K P30L. We have 10 rounds of MagTech, 150 grain 9mm. We got some steel, and let's just see how well she shoots. Wearing gloves out here because it's freaking cold right now. It's actually flurrying, so I got to hurry up and get out of here. But here we go. Okay, how does let me give you my first impression of this trigger, this LEM trigger. Again, I've always said it's a training issue. When shooting guns like this is easy to shoot. If you've shot double action, single actions, this is just like shooting just regular single action. It's nothing. Again, it's a little bit more difficult to shoot with gloves, of course. Unless you train a lot with gloves, you kind of lose that tactile feeling. But wow, yeah, it doesn't take much time to learn this trigger. Let's do some more shooting. All right, guys, accuracy portion. We got the 2-inch shoot and see on the USPSA target. I'm gonna go back 7 yards. Excuse me. Whoa, it's cold out here. It's snowing. So I'm gonna shoot with my gloves off, even though it's cold. Try to get the best possible accuracy out of this sucker. Man, I put the camera too low and too close. But we're gonna walk back 7 yards, see what kind of accuracy we can get. Yeah, That's pretty damn good. Don't tell me you can't train with this. These are the first shots I've fired out of this gun. And if you have any misgivings about the LEM trigger, don't. It's pretty awesome. So let's go back and get the final thoughts. All right, guys, final thoughts on the H&K P30L with the LEM trigger. You know what I'm going to say, man. It's great. It's accurate. I've heard nothing but good things about the reliability. Now, we only fired about 50 rounds out here for this video. Shot another short. So 50, 60 rounds. We're around that far in. Of course, no issues. It is an H&K. I was curious about the LEM trigger. I could shoot the fire out of this thing. It is not that much of a training curve for me, although I am used to shooting double single action pistols. Let me explain what the LEM trigger is like. It's like the single action stage on a standard H&K USP. To me, that's exactly what it feels like. If you can shoot a USP well, you'll be able to get used to this pretty darn quick. I think the cool recoil system inside works. It definitely is a very low recoiling handgun. Not that 9mm recoils that much anyway, but still, you get some 9mm that flip and snap. Walther PPQ is kind of one. It's kind of flips a little bit more than some other pistols. Definitely more than this one. You know, these are going for, I don't want to say the price, but they're going for some good prices. In my opinion, mid-sixes, somewhere around there nowadays. I highly recommend, if you're on the fence and you don't like the stupid decocker thing on the back or the double with and the safety on top of that and all this jazz, this is a fantastic system. I am a fan of the LEM system. Sights were super visible, super easy to pick up, super easy to shoot. All in all, man, this is a win. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.